Hey guys, welcome to week 10 of class. This week we are going to be focusing on, in fact, beginning a 3-week series on the history of World War II. And so this week we're going to be focusing on the causes of that conflict. And as the conflict began in Europe, this week is going to feel a little bit more like a European history course because we're going to be focusing quite a bit on events unfolding in Germany and Italy, as well as in Japan, under various leaders. This would include Hitler, Mussolini, and the Emperor Hirohito. And so lots of different things going on in various parts of the world, but during this period, during the 1930s, the United States is rather preoccupied with its own domestic problems. Chief among them would be the Great Depression. Though it has this sort of neutral position, and we're going to talk quite a bit about this isolationist position that the United States has, it does engage in foreign policy, and it does have relationships with these various nations. So for example, one of the things that you're going to see this week is that we're going to talk about the United States' relationship with Japan. During this period, the United States is kind of at odds with the Japanese because they have engaged in a process of imperialization that began in the 19th century and went forward, where they have invaded various nations like Russia. That resulted in war, Manchuria, and in China. And the United States has a vested interest in this region because they had acquired the Philippines following the Spanish-American War, if you think back to our discussion of American imperialism, right? And so the Japanese are threatening potentially this location, and indeed, as you'll see once we get to World War II, the Japanese do capture the Philippines, and the United States will spend a fair amount of time recapturing the Philippines throughout the duration of the war in the Pacific Theater. So our relationship with the Japanese at this point is rather tenuous. Now that stated, we do not go so far as to intervene in Japanese affairs. So we're going to be looking at that. We're also going to be looking at the rise of Hitler and Mussolini, and you'll note that their rise to power, although they come to power at different times, 1920s, early 20s for Mussolini and 1933 for Hitler, they're very similar in a lot of different ways. And so while all this is going on, for the most part, U.S. is remaining neutral. We passed a bunch of neutrality acts during the 1930s to sort of reaffirm this. But ultimately, that isolationism will come to an end when we are attacked at Pearl Harbor on December 7th. So that's what we're going to be looking at this week. Obviously, we'll be going more in detail in the lecture on each of these topics. But this week we look at the causes. Next week we'll look at the American home front, and we'll focus on the impact of war on women, Latinos, African Americans, and then later on we'll look specifically at the Japanese and Japanese Americans as well. So lots to do this week. So if you have any questions or concerns, please contact me, and I'll do what I can to ensure that I clarify or answer your questions. Otherwise, I will leave you as I always do, so go in peace, be warm and filled, may the force be with you, live long and prosper, and may the odds forever be in your favor. Have a blessed week, guys.